ready to get another week started. We've got a loaded Monday edition of Metro News Talkline. We are underway.
Do not attempt to change the station. You are surrounded.
We interrupt this program to bring you an emergency news bulletin. Repeat, this is an emergency bulletin. Keep your radio turned on.
From the studios of WVRC Media and the Metro News Radio and Television Network, the voice of West Virginia, comes the most powerful show in West Virginia. This is Metro News Talkline with Dave Wilson and TJ Meadows.
Check set line up link. Activated Telos telephone. Switch network control from Charleston to Morgantown.
Stand by. Cue Dave and TJ. You're on. Metro News Talkline is presented by Encova Insurance, encircling you with coverage to protect what you care about most. Visit Encova.com to learn more.
Welcome into the program. Hope you had a great weekend and hope your week is off to a great start. Weather's going to be fantastic. Thanks for listening in on one of our great Metro News radio stations across the great state of West Virginia, or if you're watching on the Metro News TV app, that's where Jake Link, our video producer, excels. He is handling the video side of things. Joe Nelson and Kyle Wiggs taking care of the audio side today. Phone number is 800-765-TALK, 800-765-8255. You can text the show at 304-TALK-304. Coming up this morning, Jonathan Savage will join us from London. He has the latest on the Gaza ceasefire. President Trump speaking to the Israeli government today. He just spoke in Jerusalem this morning. He's headed to Egypt for an official signing of that peace agreement. We'll talk to Jonathan Savage about that, get the details. Joe Bricado stops by, Brad McElhenney, and we'll visit with the new U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of West Virginia, Matt Harvey, in the second hour of the program. Treasurer Larry Pack as well. TJ's off today. He is back tomorrow. 800-765-TALK, the phone number, 304-TALK-304, the text line. Earlier this morning, the remaining living hostages taken by Hamas on October 7th, 23, were returned to Israel. President Trump spoke to the Israeli government this morning and is on his way to Egypt, as I just mentioned, to discuss today's history and tomorrow's challenges in the Middle East. Fairmont State political science professor, friend of the show, Robert Bolton, joins us on Metro News Talkline. Robert, good morning.
Good morning, Dave. How are you doing today?
Doing quite well. Glad you could join us. Put into context the events of the last couple of days, but especially today, of this peace deal, this ceasefire agreement being signed.
Well, I think the most notable thing about this is that this is the closest chance thus far for both Israel and the Palestinian people to have an actual permanent peace since the events of October 2023. Hamas has certainly given up a significant amount of leverage in future negotiations by surrendering the approximately 20 hostages who are still living, along with the remains of a few hundred other hostages. With that being said, I am a strong believer that the devil is in the details, and I'm somewhat of a pessimist by nature, so I think it still very much remains to be seen whether or not this ceasefire will hold and a lasting peace will be forged in the Middle East.
In the immediate, Robert, the release of the hostages, getting them back to Israel, that has to be a significant step given what has happened the last couple of years. Hamas was really... it was left with no choice but to agree to something, wasn't it?
Quite frankly, I don't think that they were necessarily obliged to agree to anything. Hamas is a terrorist group that has already proven that by hook or by crook that it is willing to do whatever it needs to maintain power, even if that results in the deaths of tens of thousands of Palestinians, civilians. Also, I will say, though, that by surrendering these 20 civilian hostages, they are giving up a major negotiation tool in the future. So they are taking some risk. I have to admit that that is an exceptional circumstance that if you had asked me a month ago would that have occurred, I probably would have said is not going to happen.
What are the challenges that lie ahead, both short-term and long-term?
Well, in the short term is convincing Hamas to disarm, and this is where I'm most skeptical that this peace deal will result in a permanent ceasefire and a long-term peace in the Middle East, because Hamas has no desire to give up control of the Gaza Strip. They seized power in a 2006 election in which they used violence and intimidation against their political rivals, and they've ruled the Gaza Strip since then. When you look at what happens, the only reason I really see there's any realistic prospect of the Hamas leadership disarming its group is because, quite frankly, if you're a Hamas fighter right now or a Hamas leader, you have a very short shelf life. Most of the leaders who planned the original attack in October of 2023 at this point are dead or have been captured. In regard to the longer-term prospects and challenges that are present in the region, I think if this peace still holds, it's going to be relocating the Palestinian refugees. Roughly 80% of the population has been displaced over the last 2 years, and also rebuilding the region. The Gaza Strip was already a heavily impoverished region before this war began, and pretty much the totality of its infrastructure, its public services, its government has been wiped out over the last 2 years. So being able to build up an economically viable region that can meet the needs of its citizens is, I think, undoubtedly the key challenge. And one last thing I'll say in regard to that is why do people turn to terrorist groups like Hamas to begin with? Obviously, ideology, religion, other factors may play a role, but I think in large part, usually people are willing to support a group like Hamas because that they feel there's no alternative, that they're desperate. So once you give people an actual future that appears brighter than what they're living right now, that's when I think peace will actually lock into place.
Robert Bolton joining us, Fairmont State University political science professor. Robert, how much of what you just talked about there is contingent on countries like Qatar, Turkey, Iran, even, as a matter of fact, also being on board, because Hamas cannot generate its own revenue, if you will. It has to get it from somewhere. How much of this is contingent on those other countries in the Mideast also being on board and, quite frankly, putting a little pressure on Hamas to make certain that this continues, to see this through?
I think it's a huge part of it. Now, in regard to Qatar, Egypt, Turkey, or the United States, yes, these are countries that are willing to lay money down on the table for reinvestment into that area. Iran, in my opinion, is more of a wild card. Iran, in many ways, was the one who prompted and gave the green light to Hamas to launch the attacks on October 7th, 2023. There are a variety of reasons why they did so, but they do view they are an existential threat to Israel, and I think they're the ones most likely to oppose any permanent peace deal because they really view Hamas as their last major ally in the region. The Houthis in Yemen have suffered significant casualties, and much of their leadership has been decimated over the last few months. Assad has been overthrown in Syria. Hezbollah has seen its leadership decapitated. And the Russians are currently distracted by the conflict in Ukraine. So Iran doesn't have many allies left besides Hamas, and Hamas, for similar reasons, doesn't have many allies left besides Iran. The one advantage, though, now versus a year ago, is Iran has seen that President Trump is willing to use military force against it, notably in the instance of the strike on the nuclear reactor a few months ago. And also Israel has shown that when Iran retaliates, they can usually use an effective missile defense system that limits overall casualties. So Iran undoubtedly is going to attempt to put the brakes on this peace deal, but how much is Hamas willing to listen to that versus when the threat of being targeted in a strike by the Israeli or American military remains to be seen.
Robert, one thing that I've certainly learned over the last couple of years watching this conflict and observing others is you cannot apply Western values to the Mideast. And what I mean by that, to us, it makes perfect sense. Why would you trade war and poverty? Why would you want that over economic growth, growing cities, growing better lives? That seems like an easy piece. Like that's an easy deal. That's an easy trade-off for us in the West. Is it really about force? Is it really about strength and power when it comes to the Mideast?
I do think that there is some of that. Also, when you look at, particularly with the Palestinian people, there is this perspective among them that they've been, amongst themselves, that they've been picked on, and that after the creation of Israel in the late 1940s, that they were expelled from regions that historically belonged to them. I don't personally share that view, but nonetheless, that is the perception that they have for themselves. So when they say, "Oh, this is our ancestral land," there is somewhat of a nationalist and also a religious impulse present there, where they say, "Look, I don't care if I'm wealthy. I refuse to exercise or recognize the existence of Israel." Now, that's among the most radical factions among the Palestinian people, among Hamas. I don't think that the vast majority of people probably actually feel that way. They may tentatively offer support to Hamas, but most people, when you get down to it, are more concerned about their day-to-day lives. They want to make sure that their children are being fed, that they have a safe home, that they can live their lives unmolested. So if it does appear that this peace process is going to produce viable results, you might see among the Palestinian people an ebbing of support for Hamas.
Robert Bolton, Fairmont State University political science professor. Always appreciate the insights, Robert. Thank you very much.
No problem, Dave. Glad to be on.
Absolutely. Coming up, Jonathan Savage will join us, Fox News Radio. President Trump spoke to the Israeli government this morning. We'll hear about what the president had to say in Israel. In fact, I just saw Air Force One taking off, headed for Egypt for that Mideast Peace Summit. We'll continue as Talkline rolls on from the Encova Insurance Studios. Back in a moment.